was the last time you guys learned how to read? It's a while ago, right? For most people, and probably for you, the last time you learned how to read was the first time you learned how to read. Right? Maybe first grade, second grade, kindergarten, around that time. So think about what you learned year by year in grade school. You learn mathematics every year, you learn science every year, you learn history every year. Reading you learn once, and after you learn the basics of it, how to read The Cat in the Hat, all of a sudden you're in high school and now you've got biology, and now you have physics. And then you get to college and you've got really, really hard material, really technical, boring even material, okay? And this is here's the problem here. We have college level material and we're reading with grade school level skills that we were initially taught, okay? How do most people read? Most people when they read, if these are words on a page here, let's pretend these dashes are words on a page. Most people when they read, let's say this is a whole paragraph, and let's say this piece of chalk represents your eye. Most people when they read, they do something like this. How many people read left to right? Okay, some of you are looking at me, is something wrong with reading left to right? Nothing's wrong with reading left to right. That's how we read in English, okay? How many people notice when they're reading, you kind of read on a word-by-word basis. You read every single word, right? This is how we were taught to read. Now I'm going to tell you right off the bat, if you want to make some dramatic improvements in your speed and your comprehension, there's 3 basic things that need to be changed, okay? These are 3 old reading habits, and they're inefficient reading habits that we have to change if we want to start getting faster, if we want to get better comprehension, okay? The first one is called fixation. Fixation is something that your eyes are doing. Okay, your eyes fixate on each and every single word, and this is because we're taught to read this way by reading word by word. It's fine when you're first learning how to read, okay, but the problem with it now is everyone in here has peripheral vision, right? You have peripheral vision, you can look straight ahead, see left to right, and also up and down. And you use your peripheral vision every day when you're walking around so you don't bump into people, when you're driving. If you've ever played a sport, you use peripheral vision. But when you read, most people when they read, they kind of use tunnel vision. They focus on each and every single word. And the problem with this, well, the first problem is you're not using your peripheral vision. But the other problem is if you're making all these itty-bitty fixations, these stop-and-go, herky-jerky movements with your eyes, well, there's 10 words per line here. That means 9 or 10 fixations per line. After a while, your eyes get a little fatigued. Has it ever happened to you where you're reading for an extended period of time, and after a while, you just got to rub your eyes, or you got to look away? It creates sometimes some discomfort with your eyes, okay? So this first habit is the first one we need to change, fixation. Okay? Habit number 2. Some of you laughed when I went back. How many people have gone back to reread material? Okay, everybody has done this. This habit is called regression. Okay? Have you ever read a whole page and you look up and you're like, I have no clue what I just read? Right? This is very frustrating. Okay? Imagine if, and this has probably happened as well, maybe you read a whole 30-page chapter of technical material and you feel a little shaky at the end, maybe a little clueless about what you just read. Do you feel like going back and rereading those 30 pages? No, you just kind of figure, well, it's an accomplishment of some sort, right? So we just kind of put it off to the side. So this habit of regression, if you do it a lot of people do it a lot. Average person goes back to reread 33% of the time. So that means if we take into account 60 minutes of reading, for the average reader, 20 minutes out of the 60 was spent going back to reread material. Okay? That really means you're only going forward for 40 minutes. Okay? So this habit of regression is something that also has to be changed. It's a big problem. It's holding us back. And we obviously need to sharpen our concentration. So we have 2 habits so far, 2 out of 3. Fixation, regression. This last habit is the absolute worst. Okay? This is the main reason why people get stuck in this range of 150 to 250. Okay? Do you guys remember when you were first learning how to read, your teacher had you get up in front of class and had you say the words out loud? How many people remember this dreadful experience Yes, because why is it dreadful? If you make a mistake on a word, people will make fun of you, right? Now, why does your teacher have you do this? Because he or she wants to see if you can sound out all the words, if you know how to read the words at that age. After a while, your teacher doesn't want you to say the words out loud. What does your teacher tell you to do? Say the words silently in your head. So we start saying the words silently in our head, and the reason why a teacher tells you this is because if there's 30 little kids in a room and they're all chattering away, it gets a little annoying, right? So we start saying words in our head, and this kind of works out for us, and we continue doing it until this day. How many people in here hear voices in their head as they read? I know I kind of framed it in a little tricky manner. It was a trick question. But if you haven't noticed it now you have, that you say each and every single word in your head. Okay? And a lot of people feel, this habit, by the way, for keeping track, fixation, regression, this third habit is called auditory reassurance. It's also known as subvocalization. Okay, you're basically reassuring yourself that you know something by saying it in your head. We used to say it out loud, now we say it in our head. And a lot of people feel that it is absolutely necessary to say each and every single word in their head in order to understand the material. They'll say, you know what, I have to say the word in order to understand it. And that's just simply not true. When you see a stop sign, do you say stop? No, you see a stop sign, you know it says stop, right? What about, somewhere along the day today, you probably saw a sign that said, The Ohio State University. Did you fixate on the Ohio State University? Say all the words in your head and go, oh, that's where I go to school. No, it's easy. We get it right away. You see it and you know it. It registers right away. You don't have to say all the words to comprehend them. Okay? But when we read on the page, we like to say every single word. And we feel like it's necessary, but this is only because we've been doing it for so long. Ever since first grade when we were told to do it. Okay? So we have these three habits that need to be changed. So let's do a little experiment with this auditory reassurance here. You have this material. This is 1 minute of reading this first line here. Okay? What we're going to do during this experiment is I'm going to have you read. You're going to continue where you left off. We're only going to read for 1 minute, but I want you have to continue where you left off. You have to say each and every single word out loud. Okay? Just whisper. You can whisper the words, but you have to say all the words and you have to be saying them out loud. Now, the reason why we're going to do this little experiment, here's the reason. We want to see, okay, well, how fast can I go when I'm reading out loud versus when I'm reading in my head? And then we'll compare the speeds. Okay? So you're going to continue where you left off. I'm going to time you for a minute, and we'll see how far we get. Everybody has to say the words. You're going to hear other people saying words. That's fine. I'm going to do this as well, just to see how far I can get. And then we'll stop after a minute and see where we are. Okay? All right. Go ahead and begin reading out loud. Okay, stop. Draw a line wherever you stopped. Okay, everybody heard the sound there. Can you imagine if you walked into the library here and that's what you heard? It would be very hard to concentrate. Okay, so count the number of lines you just read. And multiply it again by 10. Take the number of lines you just read and multiply that number by 10. For me, I read 21 lines, 210 words a minute. Okay? And compare your two scores. you'll probably notice they're around the same range.